Okay, let's dive straight in. We're looking at something that involves community spaces, public money, specifically a redevelopment project for the Eunos Community Club.
Right. And whenever public funds are involved, especially for community stuff, questions about transparency pop up. What was shared, and maybe more importantly, when.
Exactly. And that's kind of the heart of what we're unpacking today. We've got sources outlining this whole situation around the Eunos CC.
It involves concerns raised by the leader of the opposition, Pritam Singh, and also some pretty significant findings just released by Singapore's competition watchdog, the CCCS.
So our mission here really is to try and get to the bottom of why this ongoing investigation into potential bid rigging for the project wasn't mentioned in a parliamentary reply back in January 2025.
Even though apparently they knew about the investigation way back in July 2023.
Right. And then what do these recent CCCS findings actually tell us about what was going on behind the scenes?
Okay, so the first piece is Pritam Singh's point. He posted on Facebook, May 23rd this year, basically asking why the ministry, MCCY, didn't disclose this active CCCS investigation.
The one looking into the Eunos CC tender?
Yeah, that $17 million tender process, which, remember, ended up being aborted because of bid irregularities.
Okay. And didn't he also link that to residents wanting updates? Something about maybe using digital panels and HTB lifts?
He did suggest that as a way to keep people informed, yeah.
Yeah.
It sort of underlines that people want to know what's happening with projects their taxes are funding. Makes sense?
Absolutely. And then literally the same day, May 23rd.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Maybe. The CCCS makes its announcement, and this is where that investigation he mentioned really comes into focus.
What did they announce?
They stated that two construction firms, Trust Build Engineering Construction and Hunan Fengshan Construction Group, HNFT, were being fined.
Fined. How much?
A combined $4.6 million.
Wow, $4.6 million. That's quite a sum. What for?
For colluding, for rigging bids. And it wasn't just Eunos. According to the CCCS, the bid rigging actually involved tenders for 3 community clubs. Eunos, Bukit Batok, and Chengsan.
3 projects. What was the total value, roughly?
The combined value for those tenders was around $56 million.
$56 million. Okay, so how? How did they rig the bids?
Right.
What did the CCCS find?
Well, this is where it gets quite specific. The investigation found that one firm, HNFT, was actually preparing the tender submissions for the other firm, Trust Build, or TB.
Wait, preparing them, as in doing their paperwork.
And proposing the bid prices for them, too.
So HNFT was basically telling TB what to bid. That doesn't sound like competition at all.
Exactly. It completely eliminated any genuine competition from TB's side.
Yeah.
Sources give a clear example from Eunos itself.
Okay.
TB's bid as $19.5 million, which, surprise, surprise, matched the price HNFT had given them.
Matched it exactly.
Meanwhile, HNFT put in their own bid for Eunos, but theirs was almost $900,000 higher.
So one company tells the other what price to put in, which they do, and then the first company bids higher itself. Yeah, that looks pretty suspect.
Definitely doesn't look independent. And the CCCS was clear. This violates Section 34 of the Competition Act.
Great.
And the crucial point here is that this kind of collusion, especially with public money on the line, it really undermines the whole integrity of public procurement. Taxpayers aren't getting the best value.
Okay, so let's try and connect these dots then, because this seems to be the key tension. January 2025, Parliament gets a reply about Eunos CC. No mention of an ongoing bid rigging investigation.
Despite knowledge going back to mid-2023.
Right. Then, just a few months later, May 2025, the CCCS reveals the details of that exact investigation, confirms major bid rigging, not just for Eunos, but for multiple projects.
Yeah, that timeline is, well, it's what raises the questions, doesn't it? It highlights this gap, perhaps, between the official communication and the reality of a serious investigation happening.
It really puts a spotlight on transparency, on accountability, and how government communicates about these big public projects.
And if you think about the bigger picture, it forces us to consider that balance. How much information can be shared or should be shared when an investigation is still active?
Because we all agree, I think, that transparency and integrity in how public funds are used are vital. It's about public trust.
It is.
So, given all that, what does this whole situation make you think about that tricky balance? Protecting an investigation versus the public's right to know, especially when it concerns their community and their money. Something to definitely mull over.